Dear Uncle Patrick in Boston, you shall understand how all things have passed with us from the time of your leaving for America in the summer of 1844. I write this so that someone may know what befell our village of Ballydehob in County Cork, and so you may understand why I alone of all our family now live. My name is Brigid Murphy. I am 10 years old, and I have seen things no child should ever witness. Before I tell you of the horror, I must tell you of what we were, so you may understand what was lost. Our cottage sat on 3 acres of land that Father Sean rented from Lord Kingston's estate. Mother, Mare, kept the cleanest hearth in the village, and the smell of boxty on the griddle each morning was sweeter to me than any perfume I have since known. My brother Padraig was 12, already tall as father and twice as clever. And baby Cayenne, just 8 months old, had the brightest eyes of any child in Cork. She would laugh when father came from the fields, his coat smelling of earth and honest work, and he would toss her in the air until mother scolded him for making her too excited for sleep. We were not wealthy, Uncle Patrick, but we were not poor. The potato crop fed us well, and in a good year, father could sell enough to the middleman to keep us in tea and sugar besides. On Sundays, we walked the 3 miles to Mass in our good clothes, and mother wore the shawl you sent her from Boston, which she treasured above all things. That was our life before September of 1845, when God or the devil, I know not which, sent the blight. Father came from the field on the 13th of September, his face gone white as chalk. The potatoes, he said, his voice strange and distant, as if he spoke from underwater. They've turned to black slime in the ground. I did not understand then that our entire food, every meal we would eat for the coming year, had vanished in a single week. The smell of rot hung over our fields like a funeral shroud, black and thick and wrong. Within days, every field in Ballydehob carried that same stench of death. Mother pretended everything would be fine. We'll buy meal, she said. The harvest was poor, that's all. But I saw her face when father came back from Skibbereen Market. The price of Indian meal had tripled in a fortnight. Our money would not last the winter. There was a village in Ireland where only 1 in 4 families survived to pass on their names to the next generation. But what stories are hidden in your family lineage? Our sponsor today, sponsor name, can help you discover the ancestors who survived impossible odds and the secrets they carried forward. Sponsor name makes it simple to build your family tree and discover your origins. You might find relatives who survived the famine, who crossed oceans, who endured and persevered so that you could exist today. Start your 14-day free trial using the link in the description. The first week, we ate the seed potatoes. Father's face when he brought them up from storage, I shall never forget. Those seeds were meant for next year's crop, our hope for the future. Eating them meant gambling everything on surviving until help came. Mother boiled them with the last of the cabbage. I remember thinking they tasted fine. I did not understand I was eating our tomorrow. By the 3rd week, the furniture began to leave. First the good chairs, and the table, then the bed frame. Father carried each piece the 12 miles to Skibbereen Market and returned with less coin each time. The meal prices kept rising. Mother's shawl, your shawl from Boston, went for 2 stone of meal. She cried when father took it, but said nothing. The Donovans next door slaughtered their cow in the 6th week. It was the last cow in the village. They sold the meat for half its value, because everyone knew, if you waited, there would soon be no one left who could afford to buy it. The sound of that animal's final breath, I hear it still in my dreams. Old Mrs. Murphy was found dead in her cottage in the 8th week. She had been eating grass, the neighbors said. Eating grass and nettles, because she had nothing else. I did not believe them. Not then. How could I? From our hillside, on clear days, we could see Cork Harbor as plain as the nose on your face. And every day, Uncle Patrick, every single day, we watched British ships leaving. 40 ships I counted once, 40 ships loaded with grain. Our grain that we had grown, that our neighbors had grown, all going to England to pay Lord Kingston's rent and feed English mouths while Irish children starved in the ditches. Mother said the landlords needed their money, that the grain had to go to market. I asked why we could not eat it, why we could not have even a little. She had no answer that made sense to a child. She has no answer that makes sense to me now, 40 years later. By February of 1847, they were calling it Black 47, and I understood why. The world had gone dark. Not just the fields, but the people. Hollow eyes, shuffling walk. The village had gone quiet. No children playing, no singing. Just the sound of the death cart wheels each morning, collecting those who had died in the night. But what I witnessed on the morning of March 1st, 1847, would change me forever. Mr. Donovan, the schoolmaster, who had taught me to read, who could recite poetry, and do sums faster than any man in Cork, was on his hands and knees in the ditch by the main road. At first, I thought he was looking for something he had dropped, perhaps a coin. Then I saw his mouth moving, chewing, like a cow chews its cud. He was eating grass. I thought he was playing a game. Uncle Patrick. I was still child enough to think that adults played games. Mr. Donovan? I called out, my voice bright and stupid in the morning air. He looked up at me, and I shall never forget his eyes. Empty, ashamed, defeated. Green stains around his mouth and on his hands. He said nothing, just returned to his grazing like an animal, like a beast in a field. This man who had taught me Shakespeare was eating grass. I ran home and told Mother. She pulled me close, too close, and I felt how thin she had become, all bones and trembling. We may come to that too, she whispered. We may all come to that. Within a week, it was everywhere. People on their hands and knees in the ditches, pulling up nettles, dandelions, dock leaves, wild mustard, any green thing that grew. The nettles burned their mouths. The dock leaves caused terrible vomiting. But they ate anyway, because the alternative was death. The children's mouths were stained green, not from sickness, but from eating grass they could not digest. Their little bellies swelled huge and tight, full of plants meant for animals, not humans. Then came the vomiting. Then came the fever. Then came death. Padraig was the first in our family to eat grass. I found him in the field, crying and chewing, crying and chewing. Don't tell Da, he begged me. Please, Brigid, don't tell Da. But Father already knew. Father was eating it too, in secret, saving his portions for Mother and me. Baby Cain stopped crying on the 3rd of March, 1847. Mother said she was sleeping, her voice very calm, very quiet, but I knew. I had seen too many sleeping babies carried from cottages by then, their little faces gray and still, their mothers, mad with grief, refusing to admit they were gone. They buried Kaimi with 12 other infants in a shared grave behind the church on March 4th. No coffins. We had burned all the wood for warmth weeks ago. Father Brennan spoke the prayers quickly, his own voice weak with hunger. 13 babies in one hole in the ground, wrapped in rags. The gravedigger said he'd dug more graves in 3 months than in the previous 3 years combined. Father stood there at the graveside with grass in his coat pockets. I saw it falling out as he knelt. He had been eating it to save his portion for Mother and me, had been eating it for weeks, and I never knew. His dignity, his strength, his pride as a man and a provider, all of it dissolving bite by bitter bite. He caught me looking at the grass and said nothing. What was there to say? That same week, Lord Kingston's agents came through the village with eviction notices. Anyone more than 8 weeks behind on rent was to be removed. 8 weeks. We had not paid in 4 months. Father burned the notice in our fire, as if destroying the paper would destroy the debt. In our village of 412 souls, Uncle Patrick, 412 people who had names and families and dreams. Only 94 would survive to see the new year. I write their number because someone must remember they existed. The Skibbereen workhouse was overflowing. They said people were dying in the courtyard because there was no room inside. Typhus spread like wildfire. First the green-stained mouths from the grass, then the fever, then death within days. The smell of the workhouse carried on the wind. We could smell death from 3 miles away. Bodies lay in the ditches, uncollected for days. The death carts could not keep up. Sometimes I would see British soldiers marching past those same bodies, guarding convoys of grain headed for the ships, protecting food from starving people. I did not understand then. I understand now. It was not an accident. It was a choice. Mother made the decision on March 15th, 1847. She would send me to Liverpool on a coffin ship to find you in Boston if I could manage it. Father had died 3 days before, on March 12th, with grass still between his teeth and Lord Kingston's eviction notice in his pocket. We buried him in the mass grave on the hillside. I do not know exactly where he lies. Our last meal together, Mother, Padraig, and I, was grass soup. That is all it was. Boiled grass with a single turnip Mother had hidden under the hearthstone. We pretended it was a feast. Padraig said the grace in Latin, like a priest. Mother smiled, but her teeth were loose in her gums. Padraig was already too weak to travel. He would stay with Mother. We all knew what that meant, though nobody spoke it aloud. Mother gave me her last sixpence and your address in Boston, written on a scrap of paper I kept in my shoe. She kissed my forehead. She said to be brave. She said God would watch over me. I walked the 12 miles to Cork Harbor with a woman from the next village who had lost her husband. I saw the same horror in every place we passed. Empty cottages, bodies in dishes, people eating grass, children with bloated bellies and empty eyes. It was all the same. All of Cork, all of Ireland, was dying the same slow death. We reached Cork Harbor on March 18th. The ship was called the Sarah Jane, bound for Liverpool. They called them coffin ships, and with good reason. Many who boarded would die before reaching England. But it was a chance. It was more than staying offered. As the ship pulled away, I could see the harbor clearly. And there, lined up at the docks, were the grain ships, still loading, still leaving. 40 ships full of food, while skeletons watched from the shore. I write this now, 40 years later, from Boston, Massachusetts. I found you, Uncle Patrick. You wept when you saw me, a skeleton of a child stepping off that cursed ship. You fed me. You saved me. I never saw Mother or Padraig again. The records say they died in April 1847 in the Skibbereen workhouse. I hope it was quick. I hope they were together. That is all I have left to hope for them. I have children of my own now. American children who have never known hunger, who do not understand when I cannot throw away food, any food, even a crust of bread. But sometimes, when I see grass growing green in the spring, I taste bitterness in my mouth. The taste never truly leaves you. They called it a famine. And Gordomore, the great hunger. But that is a lie of the gentlest kind. There was no lack of food. The grain ships left full every single day, 40 ships at a time, carrying Irish food to English markets, while Irish people ate grass and died in ditches. 1 million of us died while food we grew was shipped away. Another million fled, as I did. Ireland's population was 8.5 million souls in 1845. By 1852, it was 4 million. 4 million people. Half a nation. Gone. I learned then what I understand now, with the clarity of 40 years and the Atlantic Ocean between me and that cursed island. When powerful men decide who deserves to eat, they call the dying inevitable. They call mass death market forces. They call genocide economic necessity. They call it anything but what it is. Murder by policy, by choice, by greed. My father died with grass in his teeth and an eviction notice in his pocket. For rent he could not pay to a lord he had never seen. For land his family had worked for 300 years. The grass still grows green over their unmarked graves. Sometimes I think it grows greener there, fed by the bodies of the innocent. May God forgive them. I cannot. Ireland's population 1845, 8.5 million. Ireland's population 1852 to 4 million dead. 1 million emigrated. 1 million. The rest vanished into mass graves and forgotten records. And through it all, the ships kept leaving, full of grain. Every single day,